Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of The Worst. It's been a week since I've done this, so I apologize for those of you who've been anxiously waiting for the next episode. In any case, to make up for that, I'm giving you a twofer. That's right, I have an overarching thing that's the worst, and I'm combining two separate things that relate to that, and hopefully it'll get you all fired up and you'll be upset at me, because why wouldn't you, right? All right, people, so for this episode of The Worst, it's timely. It is October 30th. Tomorrow is Halloween. So what better thing to say is the worst than Halloween? That's right, people. Halloween is the worst. Now, I understand there's a lot of people who really enjoy Halloween and they think it's a fantastic holiday and they love fall and all that. Good for you. I am not necessarily against you or against that. I don't actually hate Halloween. That's not what this is about. But there's two parts to Halloween that I think are the worst, and therefore Halloween becomes the worst. The first thing I'd like to bring up is the idea of the store-bought costume. I need some coffee first for this, my goodness. I know I'm old. Call me old-fashioned. That's fine. I'll take that as a compliment. But when I was younger, we had to make our costumes or compose it from whatever we could find in our homes, and that was it. If you wanted to be a juice box, for example, for Halloween, I had a friend who actually made a juice box out of cardboard, a huge box, and they put it around themselves and painted it, and that was that. That's a weird example, I get it, but you understand the point. You made your own costumes. Today, people are just seeming to be a little bit more lazy, and this isn't everyone, but I'm including myself in this. The Menenberg household, we now buy costumes because we have children and we don't necessarily have time on our hands. However, I'm just going to point out the low quality of these Halloween costumes. Maybe you're watching this from a more warm climate, but here in the greater Northwest, it's not warm at the end of October. And yet, Exhibit A, Halloween costume from last year. This is the man in the yellow hat from Curious George, of course. That's what I went because my son was George and my other son was a banana. It's cute. Enjoy that moment for a second because it's not going to last. These costumes, which are not cheap, by the way, are made very poorly. In fact, this is almost like a styrofoam material. The pants here are so thin that a paper towel might have more durability there. And my point is, of course, that when I'm paying for something like this, I expect a little higher quality, but more so as it is late October, the end of October to be sure, you would hope for something with a little bit more insulation, a little bit more warmth, because you're going outside trick-or-treating. Now, in today's pandemic, I don't know what we're doing with trick-or-treating. I'll get to that in a second. But come on, people, give me a little bit of layer here. And then other Halloween costumes that most people who are adults decide they want to wear happen to have even less material and less coverage of their bodies, which begs the question, exactly where are you going? Which leads me to my second part of Halloween that I think is the worst. And that is, of course, trick-or-treating as a young adult. Sorry, kids, this is for you. I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. The 1.5-year-old can barely walk. Well, he can walk pretty well, but can I put him down walk him down the street, up and down neighborhood, going door to door? No, I got to carry him for that. Okay, so my 3.5-year-old can walk, absolutely, and he loves going trick-or-treating. It's really fun, but he's a child. I have students who shall remain nameless because I don't know all their names, and there's many of them, who still go trick-or-treating as 15, 16, 17, and even 18-year-olds. This, my friends, is the worst. This is terrible for so many reasons. First of all, you know, as the teenager, that you're too old. You know. You want free candy. What's ironic about this, however, is that generally speaking, I find teenagers are often a little lazy when it comes to getting what they want. They want the easy road. So this is ironic because it is actually easier to go in a car and drive to the grocery store or wherever you can find candy and buy the candy, rather than going out with your friends and going door to door for an hour, 2 hours, trying to get free candy from strangers. In addition, you would get candy of your choice and not a box of raisins or something lame like that, okay? So I'm just saying it's just goofy if you're too old to be going out trick-or-treating and saying you're not, okay? In other words, if you're getting the response from these homes that, aren't you too old to be trick-or-treating, or getting these weird side glances like really suspicious, you should know. You should take those social cues and say, it's probably too old. If you're driving, you're too old. If you're getting those looks or questions from people, you're too old. And honestly, let's leave some candy for the rest of us. These kids, like my kids, they deserve the candy. You had your chance. You had 10 years solid, easily, of trick-or-treating. It's time to give someone else a chance, my friends. And these are the reasons why I think Halloween is the worst. Now, again, if you want to dress up as an adult or as a young adult, go to a party, hang out, have fun like that, good for you. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about trick-or-treating as teenagers. I'm talking about cheap, store-bought Halloween costumes. Those things are the worst. Let's go old-fashioned, people. Let's make our costumes. Let's let children trick-or-treat, and let's let the young adults and adults go to maybe a Halloween party and celebrate. I don't know what you're really celebrating other than costumes and candy. Maybe the fall. Go for it. Do it. Enjoy yourselves. But for this old person, not going to happen. Next year, I think we're going to have to make our costumes. I think we're going to go old-fashioned that way. Anyway, I do want to hear from you, though, people. I know it's been a little while. I apologize. Stuff's going on. It's a busy season for me. I'm going to do my best to keep continuing to produce some content, but I'd love to hear some comments from you. I'd love to hear your best and worst costumes that you've ever seen, perhaps, or worn yourself. I don't really have one myself because I'm kind of lame that way. Mrs. Menenberg has to get these costumes for me, so let's be honest, I'm not good at this. But I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to hear your opinions on how old is too old to go trick-or-treating. Not how old is too old to dress up. That's a separate debate. How old is too old to go trick-or-treating? All right, my friends, that's all we have for this episode. Hopefully we'll see you next week, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Worst. Until then, remember, life is about choices, my friends. We'll see you next time.